What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we're going to go over some analysis for BTC. It's almost the weekend, so I think now's a good time to do so. A lot of moves have already happened through the week, so let's jump right into it. Starting off with BTC here. First things first, we're going to take things onto a monthly perspective. I have this monthly level of resistance here at 96.8. This is a level where we tried to flip, initially rejected, deviated under for a few months before we eventually flipped it back up into the most recent all-time highs on BTC. We are now rejecting that level with 9 days to go on the monthly. We have 1 hour to close today's daily candle, and it's very telling with the price action that has happened. I'm going to take things down to a weekly perspective here, just so we can see exactly where we're at before we get down to that 1 day there. I like to do things level by level, especially when we're doing top down for the first time in about a week here. I have this 1 week level right below this candle wick here. I like this level. It's a level that makes sense to me. And not every level has to be precise, but every level needs to mean something. How you perceive it matters. How you execute around it matters even more. Now, we're going to take things down to a 1 day perspective. You could see whenever we're trading down on the 1 day, things get a little bit iffy. When things are trading under this level, it's not generally what we want to see. And that level being that 89.2. We see how long price can chop and be super undecisive under this level. We're approaching that level now. If we were to reject and start closing under here, I would assume that we're going to start to at least sweep these lows that we have printed over here. We also have lows at around 84.4. I think those are worth a bid. We have these lows right over here at 83.8, and then these lows at 83.5, and then after that we have that candle wick at 80.6, which is just above the 80k psychological level. This is all something to take into account, and this is why we break things down in the higher time frame before we go down onto the lower time frame to see what is going on from there. So those are my downside targets if we begin to lose this 89.2, what seems to be a pivot line. Let's move down to the 4 hour and see what's happened thus far. We had a large pop up after we were able to flip this 89.2 level successfully. We have this 90.5 level that we traded around over here in the middle end of the month. We chopped around before eventually flipping it back up on these higher lows over here. And then we made our most recent high at, again, that 96.8 level, 97.8 mark the top there. And we eventually rejected back down. And then we got lower on this flip down here, right? We eventually consolidated the structure, broke it to the downside, and now we're at our current point here. Now that you understand every level that I have drawn, we can then analyze the lower time from here for what's next. We want to see 90,000 flipped. It's important that level is flipped before higher. That's been our level of rejection, and that's been the level that we wanted to see acceptance over. You can see even here, this most recent high within the range we're trading in right now. If we don't accept above 90,000 pretty soon here, especially with the low end here that we retested after the most recent break upwards of this crazy price action here, we had a pump up. Trump had crazy news about Greenland, tariffs, all that stuff. We rejected back down into the lower end of 1 day demand. I'm going to point that here in just a second. We then printed a higher low today and pumped up off that. Now we're trying to accept over the 89.2 level. Again, these levels matter. If we push up above 90,000, I think that'll fuel a push to 93,000 at least, where we rejected aggressively here. I think that makes sense. Squeeze out shorts there and look for potential short entries there for a move back down. I think that could be a viable solution, a viable play, good place to target if you are in longs. I am in long here at 88.5, and my stop's already break even. Really just looking for a pop up, hoping this is not a lower high in price. If we do, I could see some sweeps happening intraday. Don't want to get too much onto that. We also, like I said, had this 1 day level of demand here that we retested fully. We had this impulse up, rejection down, higher low, explosive push in price before we absolutely exploded out of that level. We retested that level absolutely beautifully with all that news going on. I wanted to point that out for you guys so that it makes sense, so you guys can see what happened, and so that you guys can understand the levels to play for future reactions. And this is where we're above now. If we start to see acceptance back below, like I said, I'm going to just at least begin to target a full retrace, and at the very least a sweep. That's my analysis for BTC, guys. Now let's take a look at ETH. Ethereum, quite simple range we've been trading in. I have this low on the weekly over here at about 26.50, and I have this high that I'm interested in at 35.80. You could see how price reacts around these two levels. We held it, rejected there before we eventually flipped it and broke out. Right now, we are chopping in between these two levels. Clearly, we rejected previous, held the low end, and now we're floating in between. That is the very price action you are seeing right now. When I look at things on the weekly, I saw a level of demand that was a potential, and we clearly did not hold that level. Granted, we still have 3 days and 1 hour left of the weekly to close. If we close this weekly below this level, I would say 31.50, then I'm going to look for lower at 26.50. If we close above 30.50 and begin to look a little bit good, I can maybe assume a squeeze of 3,300. But again, we want to see it close over 31.50 on the weekly, or else things start to get messy. And we already got a retest at the lower end of that level. I'm looking at things right now. If people are entering longs with their invalidation below here, are they really safe? Same way with shorts. If they're entering shorts with their stop loss above here, are they really safe? There's a chance before the weekly closes that we get a sweep above and a push back down, or a sweep below and a push back up. So I'll be looking out for any of those reactions intraday if things line up on Confluence to act on reaction. We're approaching end of the month, FOMC next week. Think and tread lightly. Plan things ahead and then act on those plans and execute. That's what's going to work. Patience matters. I appreciate you guys watching today's video. I'm going to leave all my links in the description below. I'll see you in the next piece.